Merry meet, Annie here. Welcome to stone casting. This time we're going to talk about blue lace agate. Blue lace agate is the stone of tranquility. But it's not a stone that guarantees tranquility. It's a stone that reminds us that we have the power, if not also the responsibility, to bring balance to things in our life. So while it promises us tranquility, it is by taking action to ensure it is so. It's not the gift of tranquility, it is our ability to create it. All agates are stones of protection. And the aspect of blue lace agate, which has to do with protection, is that in almost all circumstances, any place of power comes from a place of balance. Whether it is the power we need to bring up in the face of a challenge in order to protect ourselves, or whether it is something we send out there. Blue lace agate, in its aspect of protection, has to do with we will only make progress in certain situations when we come from a place of centering, balancing, a place of being calm, not over-emotional, not over-responsive, a place of being, at the energetic level, tranquil. So the most important aspect of blue lace agate is this aspect of tranquility. Secondary to that is, it's a given that in a place of calm, in a place of tranquility where we are not influenced by extremes of anything, we will see most clearly. And in this aspect, it is known as an analytical stone. It has the inspiration of knocking the busyness, the over-emotional or even under-emotional ways we can be as a human being, to get to the center of something by coming, again, back to the place of power for lace agate, which is tranquility. Within that place, we see clearly. So its two most powerful aspects have to do with tranquility and the clarity, which can be the result of arriving at a place of tranquility. Keeping in mind these two important aspects of blue lace agate, tranquility and clarity, and combining that with the fact that it is a creature of air, we get to the very powerful place of what it is when it comes to communication. What we say, the words that come out of our mouth. It lends calm authority to what we say. It is the pause before we speak. It is never being a situation where we say something we wish we could take those words back. It is a consideration of speech. The result of considered speech is it will be heard. We won't get an overly emotional response from those who are hearing. As the power of air is speech and the word, it is also the power of hearing. Blue lace agate speech has to do with being calm, whether we are in a conversation at an intimate level with one other person, or whether we are having an open conversation in a wide forum, any kind of public speaking. Coming from a place of blue agate is coming from a place of the measured word. It doesn't mean you've banked down your passion or your belief. It means that your words are considered. The power there is twofold. It permits our words to land for other people to hear them as we intend them. It is also the power of our being able to listen to what others say, truly hear what they're saying. It is the power of speaking our mind, but it's arriving at the place that we know our mind first, so we aren't confused by too many incoming distractions, by our own emotions or the emotions of others. Again, coming to a place of balance and tranquility and then being able to speak our mind. The first step being at the place we understand our own mind first, and then the words become the convincer, bringing our thoughts to the world. The power of blue lace agate is the lack of miscommunication. That what you believe you said is what the other person or persons heard. And also that when you are listening to the words of another, you hear what they intended to say, not what your busy mind, if it were not in a tranquil place, would be having. You know how when somebody's talking to you, and while they're talking, you are either already formulating what you're going to say to them, or you're thinking you agree, or you don't agree, or you start thinking about, oh, what I'm going to get at the grocery store because, and you start drifting. Blue lace agate communication means you're not drifting. It's the power of complete ability to sit in a mode of listening. Air, the power of speaking, and the power of listening. So there, to me, is 3 of the most powerful aspects in general of using knowledge gained through blue lace agate. The concept of tranquility in the sense of what you do to get there, intentionally arriving at a place of balance. Arriving at that place of clarity of thought and vision, and communication, where the power of air enters into a relationship with this stone. Now, with all of the stones that I'm going to cover, I'm going to talk about a couple of different categories for each one. They're categories I've collected over the years that worked for me, that when I was using the stones in divination, I could work them different ways. The first category that I use when collecting correspondences and my own experiences with stone is the personal category. That is, what does a stone mean when it resonates at that inward level? What it is at the personal level, the level of psyche, of personality. This really helps when you're doing a stone reading for someone who's dealing with emotional turmoil. And it's really good when you're doing a stone reading for yourself as an insight into what's going on and what you could learn about your own situation. So excuse me, because I will read so that I don't forget to list any of the things in these correspondences for each of these categories. So the first category is the inward, the personal category, the one of the psyche and the personality. The things that this stone teaches us is to accept circumstances. In other words, we solve them clearly, clarity, and therefore we know them for what they are. So we can accept circumstances, to calm the mind, to know that feelings and emotions will pass, and as importantly, to be aware of when they do, what is left. What's that center thing, the most important thing that you are left with when the busyness of thoughts and emotions settle down? It's an aid to memory, in the sense that in that place of tranquility and calmness, the important things are obvious, and the things that you just don't need to have fluttering about your brain kind of fade away. It simplifies things. If things aren't too convoluted or complex, they're much easier to remember. It's the power, again, of its clarity, of its ability to make things clear. Helps with perceptiveness, the power of listening, as I said, but the inward listening too, the sense of being aware of something which is important amongst all the other things that go on in our minds and our brains. It's the power of being able to speak clearly and calmly, therefore enabling us to speak truth. Have you ever wanted to say something but you were afraid of offending, or that you wouldn't be making yourself clear, that you might be misunderstood? The power of blue lace agate is being able to have the confidence, getting to that tranquil place you took yourself to, understanding deeply something, and allowing in that calm mind, that calm frame of mind, to speak the words which reflect what you're feeling, what you're called to say. It encourages self-confidence, again, because of understanding the important things. It brings us stamina. Stamina because by balancing, you are not wasting energy. You're focusing on the right things, more or less, but not having your energy go off in too many directions and be frittered away. It's always the strength to carry on through turmoil, knowing that at the heart of things, that turmoil does not exist. It's the power of being analytical. For a stone that seems so emotional, when we talk about the beauty of tranquility and communication, to suddenly use a word like analytical, which feels so dry, but the power of being in a place to be able to discern, think clearly, make decisions, know what is and not what is fabricated. It's the power of blue lace agate. Again, it comes from being in a place of calmness, of not having the unnecessary distractions and being able to focus in on what's important. And it can be a stone to awaken inherent talents. Again, it's a matter of tranquility. Getting back to the most simple, energetic experience of who we are and not confusing ourselves with too much stuff. We then discern, there's the analytical ability again, who we are, what our talents and energies are, what we're capable of focusing on, what we're capable of doing. It's very intimate and personal at that level. The next category that I collect correspondences for on each stone is the one I consider to be the communal aspects of the stone. I just listed the powers of the stone to you personally. How would those powers, how would that knowledge be when it comes to you in relation to others? Because a great deal of the work we do in divination has to do with relationship to others. We're not alone. What blue lace agate teaches us when it comes to us in relation to would include things like all those aspects of calm communication. Meaning, not only we coming up with the mindset and the emotional stance to communicate calmly and clearly, whether we have an easy or a difficult message to communicate, and the responsibility to be open when others are speaking to us the same way. Have you ever noticed in a debate, it stays interesting and intriguing if you're interested in what the other person has to say and don't feel threatened by it. They are coming from a place of blue lace agate if they're conversing with you that way. And the conversation becomes an equal exchange. This power of tranquility in communication works best in the face of challenging circumstances, anger, or any elevated emotion. We all have that moment of rising up emotionally in response to something in a situation where we are communicating or being communicated to. And the power of blue lace agate is the knowledge of, I will succeed in what I need to do in response to this if I come from that place of tranquility. Because of this power, it is often seen as the stone of marital fidelity. I don't know if I've ever in my readings thought it was more about marital fidelity than any kind of a fidelity. I would call it a stone of fidelity. And that would be that any two people who are in a relationship, that the power of communication in a relationship, an intimate one, a loving one, is going to be when we come from a place of being able to get to the core of things, the honest discussion that needs to happen, without offending the other, making ourselves clear, respecting that they are also making their self clear. The aspect of blue lace agate which has to do with fidelity is because if we understand each other, there is a trust of fidelity that then becomes part of the relationship. And because of that, the concept of the communication will be deeper, more intimate, more healthy. The bond between the partners will become even stronger. So indeed, it is the power of fidelity, marital fidelity to me, as well as fidelity with any bond we have made with another person. The next category I collect for all my stones is a category where we learn what the stone can be when we use it for prayer, for spell work, for magic, the way we might bring it into our workings and into our circle. You can imagine a lot of the ways in which blue lace agate is very powerful when it comes to these kind of workings, because most of these workings are effective at the level of eliminating the distractions and the busyness and the over-emotional things that happen as part of who we are as humans, and getting to the essence of something. The responsibility of tranquility, getting then to the place of clarity. In that place, the power of the stone is that it brings together all the aspects of what we do when we are working in a magical, prayerful, spiritual sense. When we get to that place that brings us, that tranquil place, the place in the center where we've gotten rid of distractions, we work very purely with the energy of mind, body, and spirit, without distraction. Here's a list of the other things that I would consider to be important when it comes to working with blue lace agate and the magical level. And I'm reading it because, in all honesty, for me, when I get it in a reading or I pull it for myself or for another, it almost always has to do with getting to the place of center, to the place of calm, to the place there that we can embrace the aspects of body, mind, and spirit. And it almost always is so purely that, when it's in a reading for me, that I wanted to be sure I captured for you all the other things it traditionally means, because you may find it is more expansive than that. So I'm going to actually read some of the other things it can be in a magical sense. Grace. Grace, again, comes from tranquility. It's a matter of being calm, listening, speaking from a place of balance. Inspiration, if we go within, we go to the tranquil place, we are open then to be inspired by, not distracted by things, but to be inspired by the thing or the things that would be the most important. Inner attunement, well, I guess that's pretty obvious. If you go in the depths of that pool which is tranquility, you're going to meet yourself, and it's going to be a matter of becoming whole, in a sense. It's also the balance of going in is also the fact that in that place we often reach out. We can reach outward in our spiritual explorations. In other words, it's a way to actually reach other levels of spiritual experience. It is the same what draws us into the calm place within us to what then can open us up to wider spiritual experiences. For those of you who work with angels, you probably know that blue lace agate is considered to be a stone that enforces the bond with you and your angels. It goes back to the communication aspect of you will hear them, they will hear you, the words spoken and the hearing. And it encourages a relationship for those of you who do have a relationship with guides who you perceive as angelic. It helps to focus on the inner source of love within you, which is a source of healing. I don't experience it that way myself, but I do know that many do, and wanted to make sure I shared that. Its power to discern truth, very important at the spiritual level. And here's another thing I have encountered with it over and over again, that something that we perceive as an ending can as well be a beginning. Why that comes from the place of power for blue lace agate is, think about that journey inward to the place of calm. In the busyness and the drama of whatever is going on that sounds and feels like the end of the world to us, when we can release ourselves, our brains, our minds, our feelings from all the static, and get down to the place of quiet, that's the place we might realize, well, maybe this is why this happened. Maybe this is where I start from now. A place to understand there aren't endings. There's always the option for a new beginning. That doesn't happen outside of tranquility. I have in my notes when it comes to the power of that it is always the stone that is the place we begin again from. A very powerful spiritual place. And the last category that I collect information on is health. Personally, I don't work with the energy of any particular stone. I use the stones as an insight into what might be, what might need to be addressed, what might be out of balance or in balance, however I interpret the stone at any given time. There are a lot of health alignments that each stone has. I'm going to literally read off the ones that I have in my notes for blue lace agate. It helps when facing allergies, arthritis, bones and bone marrow situations, the circulatory system, digestion, fever, headache, overcoming addictive behaviors, and strengthens the hereditary skeletal structure. Now, in all honesty, only one of those aspects of blue lace agate is present when I get it in a reading that has to do with health, and it has to do with the balancing of imbalances that cause a health problem, whether it's an emotional health problem, addictive behavior, mood swings, hysteria. For me, it is indicative that health will be improved by a balancing of things in one's life. In other words, while arthritis is listed as one of the things that blue lace agate can impact, my take on blue lace agate would be arthritis would be impacted through the power of this stone by modifying behavior, diet, and exercise to encourage a balanced body, which alleviates the pain from things like joint problems. That it could be the balance that helps when addressing an addictive, destructive behavior. I do find that if it comes up in a reading on health, that often whatever the person's struggling with is hereditary. So while it seems very dry, that last bit that I read that is part of its standard correspondence for health about strengthening hereditary skeletal structure, I haven't found that it's particularly skeletal more than anything else, but I have found that very often when it comes up, whatever I am facing or the person I'm reading for is facing, more than likely it's something that has been an inherited challenge to the body. And the last thing that I collect for each stone is I like to try and capture word bites. Like if I pulled it as a single stone reading, what would be the things that would jump into mind as top of mind on what the stone might mean? I don't want to always do a reading where I have to analyze everything I know about the stone in depth. And there's a lot to know about lace agate and every other stone to determine, well, what's it mean in relation to everything else. Sometimes you just want a 1-2 punch. You want to know a quick answer. What do I need today to get through the day better? Or if you're faced with a problem and blue lace agate is the stone that comes up in your cast, you want to know how's it going to help you solve the problem. Using the power of blue lace agate, obviously, is getting to the most simple way of doing anything. So for each of the stones that I have worked with over the years, I've come up with my bites, my captures of the essence of the stone. They might resonate for you. I really do suggest that if you're collecting information on stones, that from the information you collect, come up with your own listings of the powerful punch, the short punch of what each stone teaches. But just for an example, I'm going to share with you when I do these pieces on what a particular stone means to me. For blue lace agate, the power punch is get to a quiet place. Calm yourself down. Tranquility and the responsibility to tranquility. First and foremost, that is what blue lace agate means when I come upon it in a reading. Secondly, a power punch for what blue lace agate means is get rid of all the busyness, get serious, think something through, analyze it. You have the power to see your way through something. It's an aspect of balancing, indeed, but it's also a deeper focus on the aspect of clarity specifically. The third power punch that has to do with blue lace agate is the power of coming to a place of balance, balancing the aspects of you or the person you're reading for, which are your body, your mind, your energy, and your spirituality. When you do a reading for somebody who seems to be really, really distraught and blue lace agate shows up, it's like, well, this person isn't experiencing tranquility. Instead, that power punch would be that they are not experiencing tranquility because they need to experience a balancing of the aspects of who they are, those 4 aspects of who they are. And of course, the power punch that I use as number 4 for blue lace agate is the power of communication, with a reminder to you that it is the spoken word, the considered spoken word, and the ability to sit and listen and absorb what someone is saying to you. So the 4 power punches I have are the power in the sense of the responsibility that you owe creating tranquility. The power of being at the analytical place, eliminating busyness to get to the center of something. The power of, in that place of calm, being able to bring together body, mind, energy, and spirit, and the power of communication. Above all else, when we collect our correspondences, we learn over time what resonates with us. We add to, we take away from, we notice what happens when a stone shows up in a reading for ourselves or for others. No one will tell you what any stone is. You will determine the lessons that it has to teach. I wish you mirth and reverence. Mary Part.